Yeah, hi. I've lived in Seabridge for 15 years. A question and a couple of statements. First of all, every time I come to these meetings, I get a very basic biology lesson that we all understand. The problem began when the pumps were shut down. Non-circulating water creates problems. Algae, chemicals gather, etc. Years ago, we had this discussion, and what we found was the pumps were shut down, the circulation is reduced, the agricultural areas, the fields are dumping pesticides, fertilizers into the canal that is coming into the harbor area. So therefore, another question I have is this. Nothing goes on in California without an environmental impact study. Surely it was taken into consideration that generating station might shut down and that the pumps might be turned off. So therefore, what was the alternate plan, or was it not even considered? But the thing is, I'm not hearing any ideas as to what to do. Now, years ago, we went through this whole thing again, the nitrates, stagnant water, nitrates in the water, fertilizers are being dumped in by the agricultural society, and they don't care. From a few years ago, we basically were told they didn't really care. They're not going to reduce the ability to prevent those being dumped into the canal and or the harbor per se. But the thing is, what is now we're being told that the pumps are shut down, they're filled up, there's no way to start them again. So then there's going to be a tremendous cost if we do try to rebuild or do some pumps. But I'm not hearing anything that is an alternative way to try and look after this, other than forcing the agricultural community to reduce the amount of runoff that they allow into the canal. And that's about it, but it's the same thing every time I come here. We get a basic biology class, and we all know what the problem is.
Now I can say it, so.
I mean, all these great studies with all the money spent, and I've had friends that were involved with it, testing the waters, etc. And we all know the answer. We all know the answer.
Now I think, well, I'm gonna just make a quick comment. So there are a lot of options in this report. I highly recommend that you take the chance to take the time to go take a look at it. I really do. The fact of the matter is that you're dealing with multiple property owners, you're dealing with non-public land, and you're dealing with multiple interested parties here. If the city owned the entire area, or if the state owned the entire area, there would be maybe a lot less discussion there. But unfortunately, I will say is that I can't change what happened 15, 20 years ago when the developments were built, but I can only potentially help move this in the right direction today. And that's what we're trying to do now.
Was there anything on the environmental impact study that projected that these pumps might be shut down and that what the alternative might have to be?
So that's not really within the scope of this particular work. That's a good question. That's something that was discussed with the development of Seabridge and Westport. Absolutely. But
can I just jump? Sorry,
go right ahead, Dave.
So there was a state law passed, as I understand it, probably now 15 years or so ago, that said by a certain date, I think it was 2020 or 2019 at December 31, all the ones through cooling power plants in the state had to be shut down. So that law was passed and then implemented 10 years later. In the period of time where that law was passed but not yet implemented, then these communities were developed that Anthony mentioned, Seabridge and Westport and so on. So I don't know when the legislature did that, if they considered environmental impact or whatever, but it was a requirement that these were all going to get shut down. We just happened to be a little bit earlier because this particular plant was an older plant. It was not as financially feasible, and it would turn into only a peaker plant at one point, and then finally they said, we're just going to shut it down. You got that, Bob? Or?
Yeah, I'd like to add to that. There was a plan of what was going to happen when the pumps shut down. And the plan was, well, we'll keep the pumps running, and here's how we'll split the costs up to do that. The curveball that came in was the law that was passed in 2010 that said the plant has to shut down because the pumping is causing environmental damage.
something about fish, was that it, or?
Yeah,
It's,
Yeah.
it's called fish entrainment, and once through cooling is what these pumps would be considered used for. And once through cooling, power plants were required to be shut down or have alternative methods of cooling put in place. So I don't wanna spend too much more time on that. I wanna keep moving along to other questions if there are any. Like I said, I know there's a lot of detail here. It wasn't my intention to get too far into it, so. Yeah. Yes, sir, in the back.
Is there a harbor community in Huntington Beach that had a similar problem?
Yes,
And they,
Los Alamitos was what I was. mentioning
didn't they
earlier.
put in some circulating pumps?
There was a pumping solution implemented there that it's slightly different than the situation we're dealing with here in that you're discharging directly to the Pacific Ocean. So it's something that was considered by Craftwater as to be used as a potential research point to say, okay, what were their costs, what were their implementation considerations, but that's factored into some of the receiving water strategies that were included in this mitigation strategies report.
And, okay, but they were somehow able to afford it down there, I mean.
I don't know what their cost was off the top of my head, but it was, I do know it's quite expensive, but also additionally, the power plant's still running to a certain extent as well.
Oh, they have a power plant down there too.
Are there any other questions? Yes, Dave?
I'm just saying thank you, Anthony, to you and the whole team at Rockwell. This, while it may not seem like the progress we were looking for a year ago, it's educated us a lot, and I think we can now collectively think about these things and make hopefully a better decision how we move forward to solve the problem.
Yeah, I will say that this is a very strange kind of report to present because this is not the final report. It's like 3/4 of the way there. And I do, but thank you for your patience and my, long-windedness here. There is a lot of information here. There's a lot of things to consider. But I want you to know that we're continuing on with this, and the next few steps will be city council. Please, like Chuck mentioned earlier, please attend a city council meeting, express support for continuing this project. And then please keep an eye out for council meetings when we talk about implementation plans. There will be a council meeting set for that with both the city council and with the county board of supervisors. And I don't have a date for that yet, but we will hopefully nearly in the future. All right. Thank you.